This is Iowa's news leader. This is KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning and thank you for joining us for Close Up. I'm KCCI Chief Political Reporter Amanda Rooker. Republicans held their first 2024 GOP primary debate Wednesday night in Milwaukee. Doug Burgum, Chris Christie, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Asa Hutchinson, Mike Pence, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Tim Scott all met the RNC's requirements to appear on that debate stage. Former President Donald Trump did as well, but he declined to participate. Instead, he taped an interview with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson, who aired the clip online just minutes before the debate kicked off. So there is a lot to talk about. I'm joined here by former Iowa GOP co-chair David Oman. David, always great to have you.
Good morning.
Oh, David, there has been a lot. As you've mentioned, we had the Iowa State Fair, we had a new Iowa poll, we had this debate, and the former president had his mugshot taken in Georgia, so a lot to go over. Let's start, though, with a recent an Iowa poll. The Des Moines Register took a poll, and NBC News and Mediacom. Right. They released a poll just 48 hours before that debate. I want to take a look at that poll now. Donald Trump was ahead with a sizable lead, 42% there, followed by Ron DeSantis at 19%, Tim Scott third, but in single digits at 9%, everyone else behind him in the single digits. What do you make of that poll?
Well, first of all, the Iowa poll is very credible. We all know that. But there have been exceptions, so it's still early, 20 weeks to go, which will go by very quickly. Basically, it shows that Trump has a plurality of the Republican family, of 42%. The people we saw on the debate stage the other night added up have about 52%, and then there are a handful who didn't make the debate stage and a couple undecided. So it's still up for grabs. The field is still large, and right now that works in Trump's to his advantage as a plurality. It may collapse. There may be fewer people by January.
Do you think that that group that has the share of 52% needs to coalesce? Could they coalesce?
Well, those are hard decisions to make by people who've decided to run for the top job in the United States of America. But if you're at 2 or 3% by Thanksgiving, you really need to wonder, why am I doing this? And if the goal is to, on the part of almost all of these others, to either be the nominee or see to it that Donald Trump isn't, so that the Republicans win in November of 24, some will come to the conclusion they can't go forward.
And I want to get to the debate now because there's a lot to talk about. Is there any candidate that you felt did really well in that debate that could carry that momentum on the campaign trail in Iowa?
Well, there are always ups and downs. We talked the other night, Mike Pence had a good debate. He was strong. When one of the journalists called him aggressive, that's probably the first time that word's been used about him for a while, and he probably took it as a compliment. Nikki Haley had a good debate as well. She was pointed on many fronts. DeSantis, on the plus minus, maybe didn't help himself a whole lot, but nobody stung him, and he probably still is in this race as the leading alternative to Donald Trump right now.
And Donald Trump really quickly had made history last week. He was the first former president to have his mugshot taken. You're seeing that mugshot right there. He is already fundraising off of this. He returned to Twitter to tweet out a picture of it. How much is this mugshot going to help Donald Trump in the race?
Well, there are some in our party who can't get enough of that. I think a lot of Republicans are soberly wondering, do we really want to carry that boat anchor through the rest of this year and through all of 2024, all the ups and downs of not one, not two, not three, but 4 different criminal indictments, cases with 91 felony charges being talked about constantly. Look, this country's in trouble. The Biden administration has given us a plate full of issues that we can be talking about, from the economy to the border to national security and on and on and on, energy security. Do we want to talk about those issues and look ahead for Iowa and the country, or do we want to keep talking about Donald Trump's legal problems? My personal view is I hope it's the former.
We will see just how much impact it has, right? Well, David, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. 20 weeks will go by very quickly.
Absolutely, and we'll be with you to break it all down.
All right, you're welcome.
Welcome back to Close Up. Vivek Ramaswamy may have made the biggest impression in Wednesday's debate, sparring with well-known politicians like Mike Pence, Chris Christie, and Nikki Haley. I caught up with him one-on-one on Friday to talk about how that could translate to Iowa. So you had a lot of attention on that debate stage in Milwaukee. You had the second most speaking time of any of the candidates on that stage. Now you're in Iowa. How do you capitalize on that momentum here in Iowa?
First step is show up and speak honestly. This campaign is founded on speaking the truth without apology. And so my goal is to be not too calculating about what I say, but just to share my convictions, share them honestly. And what I love about Iowa is that, we just had a packed room in there, overflow, but people asking honest and earnest questions. No social media algorithms in the air, no TV screens between us. And I think that honesty is something that's going to work in our favor. I'm not a pre-scripted candidate. I don't pre-write my speeches. And I think that Iowa's a good state where that actually pays off, is to be able to build real connections with individual voters. Frankly, the time I spent in Iowa, and we've spent more time here than any other candidate so far, that was my best form of debate prep, actually, because there's no question that I'm going to be asked on that stage that I haven't yet been asked here in Iowa, and that's why I appreciate being here.
In Iowa, the latest Des Moines Register poll, though, had you in 4th place.
Yes.
How do you turn that around in Iowa?
Well, the reality is we haven't spent money on TV ads, and I think that that's one of the things that other campaigns are already doing, is they're buying very expensive TV ads, and they have giant money in their super PACs. That's not me. I'm not a super PAC puppet. I'm a patriot who speaks the truth. And I'm going to count on actually the bottom-up revival. We have close to 80,000, maybe more, small dollar donors already in this campaign. That's what's going to lift this up. And so other candidates have spent way more than me on TV ads in Iowa. I've spent way more time on the ground with my 2 feet at events here in Iowa. And by the time we get to the caucus, I think that's actually going to be the winning approach, especially as people get to see me on the debates that are now kicking off this fall. They'll get to know me that way. They don't need to see it on a produced 30-second fake TV ad. We'll do some of that, I'm sure. Everyone's going to do some portion of it, but far less than the other candidates. The way we're going to do it is actually by showing up in person. And my hope is, that's what the caucus system will reward.
And you've been here a ton, but as you told me earlier today, you're not planning on doing a full 99 county tour in terms of, having that box being checked for you.
I think there's a very good chance we will end up in all 99 counties, but I'm not a traditional politician. I'm an outsider, so I hate just doing box checking and virtue signaling. We're going to take this bus. We've already been to tens of counties. We're going to continue going to many counties across the state, and my bet is we'll have been to all 99 by the time we're done. But I don't believe in making that some sort of check the box exercise. I think that's more of a move of conventional politicians. I'm not a politician. We go from town to town. We speak the truth. We do it with candor. I don't just tell people what they want to hear. There's an old saying that goes, if you care about somebody, you tell them the truth. If you care about yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. Well, I care about the people of this country. That's why I'm aiming to lead our national revival. But I'm only going to do that by speaking the truth and being authentic.
Donald Trump was also at the state fair. You saw the massive crowds that came out to see him on that same day you were there. How do you overcome that support for Donald Trump, specifically in Iowa?
I was really flattered that day. We had the second largest crowds when I did the Des Moines Register soapbox next to what Donald Trump had that day. And you know what? The honest answer is many people in this country, even as of the Iowa State Fair, many people in the state didn't yet know who I was. And that's okay, because I come from the world of the private sector as a businessman, as a father, as an author, but somebody who came from the outside world. It's up to me to introduce myself to the people. So we're doing that steadily. I am confident, though, by the time we get to January, people will understand that I am the best positioned person to reach the next generation of Americans with national pride. That we're going to have to reach the next generation to win this election in a landslide. We have to actually stand for a vision of our own. That takes an outsider in this race to accomplish. I think it takes an outsider from a different generation. That's what I'm bringing to the table. And I'm guided by that vision. I think that's what's going to lead us to victory.
Specifically, though, on beating Donald Trump,
Yep.
Are you saying it's the generational difference? Are you what specifically in Iowa makes you, because he was a political outsider, what makes you a better political outsider to win the nomination?
I think the generational difference, combined with the way that I actually offer a positive vision for this country, that will allow me to win in a landslide. I think Donald Trump, to be really candid, some people say he can't win in a general election. I'm not so sure of that. I think he actually could win in a general election, but it would be a razor-thin margin. We cannot afford another 50.1 election in this country. We're skating on thin ice. This has to be a landslide. I think our base understands that. And I think I am uniquely the only person in this race who was on that debate stage or off who is able to win the next election in a landslide. That is my duty and my responsibility to deliver it. And yes, being a member of a new generation does help me accomplish that. But it's also the way we're running this campaign, the way I speak about this country, the way we actually have a vision that we're running to, bringing all Americans along in a multi-ethnic, working class majority like Reagan did in 1980. That's my job, and I think that's different than Trump or any other candidate in this race.
Still to come on Close Up, the impressions young Republican voters took away from the debate. Just under 13 million people watched last Wednesday's Republican debate. That's combining the viewers who watch on Fox News or the Fox Business Channel. Now, far less than that number who watched the 2015 GOP debate, which was the first that Donald Trump took part in. Just under 3 million of the viewers Wednesday were between the ages of 25 and 54. The median age of the debate viewer was 67. But of course, younger voters can play a significant role in the caucuses. So I sat down last week with some Iowa College Republicans to hear their thoughts on the debate. Dylan, Zach, thank you so much for joining us today. We watched a long, fiery debate. Let's talk a little bit about it. What stood out to you when you watched that debate?
For me, it was really Nikki Haley that stood out. A couple of her stances on abortion and Ukraine. She kind of deviated from some of the others in the crowd. I think Ramaswamy is another big one that, getting his name out there and kind of where he stands on some of the issues.
For me, it was Vivek. I was a little disappointed by the Obama quote. I don't know why he thought it would play well in a GOP debate. And I think Chris Christie clocked him on it. But aside from that, he performed really well, especially on the whole national identity idea. I also really liked his response on Ukraine, whereas you saw DeSantis kind of tiptoe around the issue. But Vivek really stood strong in saying that we should prioritize our domestic issues before getting in foreign entanglements.
They talked about young Republicans and the importance of climate change to young Republicans. What were your thoughts on that whole climate change interaction?
I think a lot of them, and the GOP for a while has kind of mishandled this issue. And especially in Iowa, I think we have a really unique opportunity here to take advantage of biofuels and clean energy, right? And so I thought the candidates did an okay job, but you have candidates like Burgum, who's been really strong on decarbonizing ethanol and biofuels, that really kind of missed his chance there, especially to make a name for himself in Iowa.
What about the fact that Nikki Haley was the only one to say climate change is real? Did you like Nikki Haley's response, or did it turn you off?
I think it's still very much an issue that the Republican Party needs to talk about, just like abortion, just like Ukraine. There's a lot of those issues that even within the Republican Party we may differ on, but again, the Republican Party is a big tent, and it's great that we have candidates that are willing to talk about that and take sides, and that's how we become stronger as a party.
I think overall her response was fine. I think the real sell to Republicans who don't believe this or believe that this is a hoax is that there are real market forces vying for low carbon or, for clean energy, right? And so I think Republicans should take that baton and run with it, whether that's carbon capture or other forms of decarbonization or clean energy.
Anyone that you think maybe fell off, anyone that the debate kind of hurt them, or you might see them kind of falling back in the polls or falling, potentially dropping out in the next few months?
I wasn't expecting too much out of Tim Scott, but what I did get, I wasn't pleased with. And so he's always been someone who seemed to me like he could really step up if he was given a stage like this, and I don't think he did. I was also disappointed with Governor DeSantis. Again, I think he really had an opportunity here, but I just heard a lot of the same platitudes that I'd been hearing the last couple months in Iowa.
There's no one for me that really I feel like is going to fall off the wagon. I know there was a lot of people got different timing in the debate. I know Hutchinson and Burgum had a lot less time to speak at the debate. I wouldn't say they fell off the wagon at all by any means. It's still a very much open field, and I'm very much undecided going into the caucuses still, but definitely would like to hear more from them.
Well, it's always so good to check in and hear what you guys are thinking. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you. The most talked about candidate at Wednesday's Republican debate wasn't even there, Donald Trump. During a Twitter interview that took place during the debate, former Fox News host Tucker Carlson asked Donald Trump why he wouldn't take the stage with the other GOP candidates.
Mr. President, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Why aren't you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them, but you see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, you know, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that?
So what does this mean for the future of presidential debates? KCCI's Pepper Papura talked with Iowa State University political science professor Karen Kudrowski about why Trump would skip this event and how his decision could change the tradition of debating on the presidential campaign trail.
Well, for one thing, I think it makes sense that President Trump did not go on stage because, as the far and away front runner in the Republican contest right now, if he had appeared on the stage, he would have lowered himself to look like just one of the bunch, right? And the others would have looked sort of presidential by comparison to President Trump.
Today we have all kinds of events. You can go to a rally, you can go to, you know, a specific campaign, maybe a fundraiser event. How are debates different than all of these other opportunities?
That's another great question. So if you go to a campaign rally or a fundraiser or you know, some sort of meet and greet, those are really highly scripted, and the candidate is much better able to control the message. So they'll give their stump speech, which the reporters who are following candidates around know almost verbatim, whereas in a debate there's a bit more spontaneity. So it's a very good way for voters to be able to see how well people can handle the unexpected. President Trump has proven to be a very difficult person on a debate stage. He's very hard for the moderators to corral and channel his energy, but then he also talks over other people and so forth. So the ability of the public to hear what the candidates have to say is really compromised when you have that kind of combative approach. And there are rumors that President Biden at this point is thinking that he's not going to debate President Trump. Again, it would give President Trump, it would make President Trump look presidential. It would be an unpleasant situation for everyone, and that there are probably more effective ways that the Biden-Harris ticket could get their message out directly to the public without going through a debate. So while it has been a tradition really since 1976 that we have debates during the general election period, I think it's a very open question as to whether or not they will come off successfully.
Thanks so much for joining us on KCCI 8 News Close Up. We'll see you back here next Sunday. Have a great day.